Oh my God, I got a chin. Just kidding. Anyway, what's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday, or whatever day it is when you watch this. Back at it, the biology of belief. You guys, we're getting close. We're getting close to finishing. We're getting closer. Yeah, so let's carry on where we left off. Emotions, feeling the language of cells. In higher, more aware life forms, the brain developed a specialization that enabled the whole community to tune into the status of its regulatory signals. The evolution of the limbic system provided a unique mechanism that converted the chemical communication signals into sensations that could be experienced by all of the cells in the community. When you feel happy, the chemical concoction that gets sent to the body. Holy smack. How did this intelligent cells created us? And then the brain's like, yo, I'm Talon. That's funny when you think about it that way. But how often do you think about it that way? Anyways. Our conscious mind experiences these signals as emotions. The conscious mind not only reads the flow of the cellular coordinating signals that comprise the body's mind, it can also generate emotions, which are manifested through the controlled release of regulatory signals by the nervous system. At the same time that I was studying the mechanics of the cell's brain and gaining insight into the operation of the human brain, Candace Pert was studying the human brain and becoming aware of the mechanics of the cell's brain. In Molecules of Emotion, Pert revealed that how her study of information processing receptors on nerve cell membranes led her to discover that the same neural receptors were present on most, if not all, of the body's cells. Her elegant experiments established that the mind was not focused in the head, but was distributed via signal molecules to the whole body. As importantly, her work emphasized that emotions were not only derived through a feedback of the body's environmental information. Through self-consciousness, the mind can use the brain to generate molecules of emotion and override the system. While proper use of consciousness can bring health to ailing body, inappropriate unconscious control of emotions can easily make a healthy body diseased, a topic I will expand upon in chapters 6 and 7. So let's just rewind a little bit. Just kidding. Through self-consciousness, and while proper use of consciousness, so being aware and being conscious of your thoughts and emotions and everything else, can bring health to the body, inappropriate unconscious control of emotions, allowing the external world to control your emotions. Someone says something and it makes you mad. Someone says something and it makes you sad. Right? That's control. You're not controlling yourself when you allow the environment to sneak in like that and be like, yo, this person over here who hasn't said nothing to you, but you haven't really had a good relationship with, is now in control of your emotions, because while they're just doing their thing, you're mad at them and they haven't done nothing to you. You know what I mean? Sounds silly, doesn't it? It is. So that's what this whole thing's about. Taking back control, right? Taking back the control. Taking back the control of our emotions and becoming conscious and aware and becoming free from outside control of ourselves and emotions, etc. Molecules of Emotion is a very insightful book describing the scientific discovery process. It also provides some revealing insights into the struggles encountered when trying to introduce new ideas. Into science's old boys club, a subject with which I am all too familiar. The limbic system offered a major evolutionary advance through its ability to sense and coordinate the flow of behavior-regulating signals. As the internal signal system evolved, its greater efficiency enabled the brain to increase in size. Multicellular organisms gained increasingly more cells that were dedicated to responding to an ever wider variety of external environmental signals. While individual cells can respond to simple sensory perceptions such as red, round, aromatic, and sweet, the extra brain power available in multicellular animals enabled them to combine those simple sensations into a higher level of complexity and perceive apple. Fundamental reflex behaviors acquired through evolution are passed on to offspring in the form of genetic-based instincts. The evolution of larger brains, with their increased neural cell population, offered organisms the opportunity not only to rely on instinctual behavior, but also to learn from their life experiences. The learning of novel reflex behaviors is essentially a product of conditioning. For example, consider the classic example of Pavlov's training his dogs to salitate at the ring of the bell. He first trained them by ringing a bell and coupling that with stimulus with a food reward. After a while, he would ring the bell but not offer the food. By that time, the dogs were so programmed to expect the food that when the bell rang, they reflexively started to salitate even though no food was present. This is clearly an unconscious learned reflex behavior, and that happens in us too. Reflex behaviors may be as simple as a spontaneous kick of the leg when a mallet taps the knee, or as complex as driving a car at 65 miles per hour on a crowded interstate highway while your conscious mind is fully engaged in conversation with a passenger. Though conditioned behavioral responses may be inordinately complex, they are no-brainers. Through the conditioned learning process, neural pathways between eliciting stimuli and behavioral responses become hardwired to ensure a repetitive pattern. Oh my God. That's the key right there. Boom. Right? Hardwire pathways. Hardwire pathways are habits. In lower animals, the entire brain is designed to engage in purely habitual responses to stimuli. Pavlov's dogs salitate by reflex, not by deliberate intention. The actions of the subconscious mind are reflexive in nature and are not governed by reason or thinking. Physically, this mind is associated with the activities of all of the brain structures that are present in animals and have not evolved self-consciousness. Humans and a number of other higher mammals have evolved a specialized region of the brain associated with thinking, planning, and decision-making called the prefrontal cortex. This portion of the forebrain is apparently the seat of the self-conscious mind processing. The self-conscious mind is self-reflective. It is a newly evolved sense organ that observes our own behaviors and emotions. The self-conscious mind also has access to most of the data stored in our long-term memory bank. This is an extremely important feature, allowing our history of life to be considered as we consciously plan our future. Endowed with the ability to be self-reflective, the self-conscious mind is extremely powerful. It can observe any program behavior we are engaged in, evaluate the behavior, and consciously decide to change the program. We can actively choose how to respond to most environmental signals and whether we want to respond at all. The conscious mind's capacity to override the subconscious mind's pre-programmed behaviors is the foundation of free will. However, our special gift comes with a special pitfall. While almost all organisms have to actually experience the stimuli of life firsthand, the human brain's ability to learn perceptions is so advanced that we can actually acquire perceptions indirectly from teachers. Once we accept the perceptions of others as truths, their perceptions become hardwired into our own brains, becoming our truths. Here's where the problem arises. What happens if our teachers' perceptions are inaccurate? In such cases, our brains are then downloaded with misperceptions. The subconscious mind is strictly a stimulus response playback device. There is no ghost in that part of the machine to ponder the long-term consequences of the programs we engage. Whoa. Hey. Time to wake up. Pay attention. The subconscious works only in the now. Consequently, program misperceptions in our subconscious mind are not monitored and will habitually engage us in inappropriate and limiting behaviors. If I included as a bonus in this chapter a slithering snake that pops out of this page right now, most of you would run from the room or throw the book out of the house. Whoever introduced you to your first snake may have behaved in such a shocking way as to give your impressionable mind an apparently important life lesson. See snake, snake bad. Very true. The subconscious memory system is very partial to rapidly downloading and emphasizing perceptions regarding things in your environment that are threatening to life and limb. If you were taught that snakes are dangerous, anytime a snake comes into your proximity, you reflexively, unconsciously engage in a protective response. But what if a herpetologist were reading this book and a snake popped out? No doubt herpetologists would not only be intrigued by the snake, they would be thrilled with the bonus included in the book. Or at least they'd be thrilled once they figured out that the book's snake was harmless. They would then hold it and watch its behaviors with delight. They would think that your program response was an irrational one because not all snakes are dangerous. Further, they would be saddened by the fact that so many people are deprived of the pleasure of studying such interesting creatures. Same snake, same stimulus, yet greatly different responses. Our responses to environmental stimuli are indeed controlled by perceptions, but not all of our learned perceptions are accurate. Not all snakes are dangerous. Yes, perception controls biology, but as we have seen, these perceptions can be true or false. Therefore, we would be more accurate to referring to these controlling perceptions as beliefs. Beliefs control biology. Ponder the significance of this information. We have the capacity to consciously evaluate our responses to environmental stimuli and change old responses anytime we desire. Once we deal with the powerful subconscious mind, which I discuss in more depth in Chapter 7, we are not stuck with our genes or self-defeating behaviors. You hear that? We're not stuck. Woohoo! Carrying on, another section of Chapter 5. How the mind controls the body. How the mind controls the body. My mind's like, yo, where's your coffee at? I know you got one around here somewhere. It's time for a sip. Cheers. Okay. My insights into how beliefs control biology are grounded in my studies of cloned endothelial cells, the cells that line the blood vessels. The endothelial cells I grew in culture monitor their world closely and change their behavior based on information they pick up from the environment. When I provided nutrients, the cells would gravitate towards those nutrients with the cellular equivalent of open arms. When I created a toxic environment, the cultured cells would retreat from the stimulus in an effort to wall themselves off from the noxious agents. My research focused on the membrane perception switches that controlled the shift from one behavior to the other. Okay, there's something we need to realize right here. This guy is dealing with cells so small, but they have switches and membranes and all these operational things going on inside just the membrane around the nucleus. That's wild. Holy. The primary switch I was studying has a protein receptor that responds to histamine, a molecule that the body uses in a way that is equivalent to a local emergency alarm. I found that there are two variants of switches, H1 and H2, that respond to the same histamine signal. When activated, switches with H1 histamine receptors evoke a protection response. The type of behavior revealed by cells in toxin-containing culture dishes. Switches containing H2 histamine receptors evoke a growth response to histamine, similar to the behavior of cells cultured in the presence of nutrients. I subsequently learned that the body system-wide emergency response signal, adrenaline, also has switches sporting two different adrenaline-sensing receptors called alpha and beta. The adrenaline receptors provoke the exact same cell behaviors as those elicited by histamine. When the adrenal alpha receptor is part of an IMP switch, it provokes a protection response when adrenaline is perceived. When the beta receptor is part of the switch, the same adrenaline signals activates a growth response. Interesting. All that was interesting, but the most exciting find was when I simultaneously introduced both histamine and adrenaline into my tissue cultures. I found that adrenaline signals released by the central nervous system override the influence of histamine signals that are produced locally. This is where the politics of the community described earlier come into play. Suppose you're working in the bank, the branch manager gives you an order, the CEO walks in and gives you the opposite order. Which order would you follow? The CEO. But, you know what I would do? I would be like, yo, CEO, whatever your name is, the branch manager told me to do this. I know you're suggesting to do what you're asking. Can you tell the branch manager that I'm going to do what you told me, or I would just do it? Either way. Usually when the CEO comes around asking for you to do something, you usually just do it. If you want to keep your job, you'll snap to the CEO's order. There's a similar priority built into our biology, which requires cells to follow instructions from the head honcho nervous system, even if those signals are in conflict with the local stimuli. I was excited by my experiment because I believe that they revealed on the single cell level a truth for multicellular organisms, that the mind, acting via the central nervous system's adrenaline, overrides the body, acting via the local histamine signal. I wanted to spell out the implications of my experiments in my research paper, but my colleagues almost died from apoplexy and at the notion of the injecting the body-mind connection into a paper about cell biology. So I put in a cryptic comment about understanding the significance of the study, but I couldn't say what the significance was. My colleagues did not want me to include these implications of my research because the mind is not an acceptable biological concept. The majority of... What? Why is the mind not an acceptable biological concept? I don't know. The majority of bioscientists are conventional Newtonians. If it isn't matter, it doesn't count. The mind is a non-localized energy and therefore is not relevant to the materialistic biology. Unfortunately, that bias is a belief that has been proven to be patently incorrect in a quantum mechanical universe. Placebos, the belief effect. Every medical student learns, at least in passing, that the mind can affect the body. They learn that some people get better when they believe, falsely, they are getting medicine. When patients get better by ingesting a sugar pill, medicine defines it as a placebo effect. My friend Rob Williams, founder of Psych-K, an energy-based psychological treatment system, suggests that it would be more appropriate to refer to it as the perception effect. I call it the belief effect to stress that our perceptions, whether they are accurate or inaccurate, equally impact our behavior and our bodies. I celebrate the belief effect, which is an amazing testament to the healing ability of the body-mind. However, the all-in-their-minds placebo effect has been linked by traditional medicine to, at worst, quacks or, at best, weak suggestible patterns. The placebo effect is quickly glossed over in medical schools so that the students can get to the real tools of modern medicine, like drugs and surgery. This is a giant mistake. The placebo effect should be a major topic of study in medical school. I believe that medical education should train doctors to recognize the power of our internal resources. Doctors should not dismiss the power of the mind as something inferior to the power of chemicals and the scalpel. They should let go of their conviction that the body and its parts are essentially stupid and that we need outside intervention to maintain our health. The placebo effect should be the subject of major funded research efforts. If medical researchers could figure out how to leverage the placebo effect, they would hand doctors an efficient, energy-based, side-effect-free tool to treat disease. Energy healers say they already have such tools, but I am a scientist and I believe the more we know about the science of the placebo, the better we'll be able to use it in clinical settings. I agree. I believe the reason the mind has so summarily been dismissed in medicine is the result not only of dogmatic thinking, but also of financial considerations. If the power of your mind can heal your sick body, why should you go to the doctor? And more importantly, why would you need to buy drugs? In fact, I was recently chagrined, I think that's the word, chagrined, to learn that drug companies are studying patients who respond to sugar pills with the goal of eliminating them from early clinical trials. It inevitably disturbs pharmaceutical manufacturers that in most of their clinical trials, the placebo, the fake drugs, prove to be as effective as their engineered chemical cocktails. Though the drug companies insist they're not trying to make it easier for ineffective drugs to get approved, it is clear that effectiveness of placebo pills is a threat to pharmaceutical industry. The message from drug companies is clear to me. If you can't beat placebo pills fairly, simply remove the competition. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. The fact that most doctors are not trained to consider the impact of the placebo effect is ironic, because some historians make a strong case that history of medicine is largely the history of the placebo effect. For most of medical history, doctors did not have effective methods to fight disease. Some of the more notorious treatments once prescribed by mainstream medicine included bloodletting, treating wounds with arsenic, and the proverbial cure-all rattlesnake oil. No doubt some patients, the conservatively estimated 1/3 of the population who are particularly susceptible to the healing power of the placebo effect, got better with those treatments. In today's world, when doctors wearing white coats deliver a treatment decisively, patients may believe the treatment works, and so it does, whether it is a real drug or a sugar pill. Though the question of how a placebo works has in the main been ignored by medicine. Recently, some mainstream medical researchers are turning their attention to it. The results of those studies suggest that it is not only wacky 19th century treatments that can foster a placebo effect, but also modern medicine's sophisticated technology, including the most concrete of medical tools, surgery. A Bayer School of Medicine study published in 2002 in New England Journal of Medicine evaluated surgery for patients with severe debilitating knee pain. The lead author of the study, Dr. Bruce Mosley, knew that knee surgery helped his patients. All good surgeons know there is no placebo effect in surgery. But Mosley was trying to figure out which part of the surgery was giving the patients relief. The patients in the study were divided into 3 groups. Mosley shaved the damaged cartilage in the knee of one group. For another group, he flushed out the knee joint, removing material thought to be causing the inflammatory effect. Both of these constitute standard treatment for arthritic knees. The third group got fake surgery. The patient was sedated. Mosley made 3 standard incisions and then talked and acted just as he would have during a real surgery. He even splashed salt water to stimulate the sound of the knee washing procedure. After 40 minutes, Mosley sewed up the incisions as if he had done the surgery. All 3 groups were prescribed the same post-operative care, which included an exercise program. The results were shocking. Yes, the groups who received surgery, as expected, improved, but the placebo group improved just as much as the other 2 groups, despite the fact that there are 650,000 surgeries yearly for arthritic knees at a cost of about $5,000 each. The results were clear to Mosley. My skill as a surgeon had no benefit on these patients. The entire benefit of the surgery for osteoarthritis of the knee was the placebo effect. Television news programs graphically illustrated the stunning results. Footage showed members of the placebo group walking and playing basketball. In short, doing these things they reported they could not do before their surgery. The placebo patients didn't find out for 2 years that they had gotten fake surgery. One member of the placebo group, Tim Perez, who had to walk with a cane before the surgery, is now able to play basketball with his grandchildren. He summed up the theme of this book when he told the Discovery Health Channel, "In this world, anything is possible when you put your mind to it. I know that your mind can work miracles." Okay, let's end it there. Wow. So that just goes to show the implications of conscious and unconscious behavior, how we respond to the environmental stimuli, what experiences and situations we put ourselves in, and how we respond to them can have a very dramatic effect on our body, both good and bad. And the placebo effect is obviously one of the biggest things that still goes on to this day. And Dr. Joe Dispenza wrote a book called You Are the Placebo. And it's a very good book. I suggest you read it. It's awesome. Wow, that was a good section, hey? Very good. Very good. We're becoming learned. All right. With that being said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and we'll catch you at the next one. Cheers.